Today is December 23rd, 2023. When I was younger, I was an alcoholic and pothead and drug addict and did all this really reckless stuff. And one of the things I do is go on burners with my friends. So, burner is just where you go out driving around and getting high. Smoke pot, hotbox the car, keep the windows up and all the smoke in, and we just get super high and listen to music or whatever. And when I would do that and I'd see a cop, I would be overwhelmed with anxiety. I was so afraid of seeing that cop because I knew I was breaking the law, and I knew if that cop caught me, I was going to jail. And so I was living in constant fear. And so I'm bringing this up because that's what the law does to people who are breaking the law. The law is a terror to those who are breaking it. And it's the same with God's law. God's law is a terror to those who are under sin. Because once you know the law, if you're under sin, you know the consequences of that law, which is death. And later in life, when I stopped smoking pot and stopped drinking and I cleaned things up a bit and I started obeying the laws, I'd obey the traffic laws and just whatever else. I tried not to break any laws anymore. Now when I see a cop, I actually feel a sense of comfort there. It's like this police officer is there for my protection and for my safety, and I feel safe around them. And so my entire view of the law has changed because I've changed. And so it's the same with God's law. When we're under sin and we learn what the law is, it convicts us of that sin, and we know that the consequence is death. But there's someone who took those consequences on himself, and that's Messiah Yeshua. He paid the penalty for our sin. He took that sin upon himself, and he died. He took that consequence of death upon himself so that we wouldn't have to. And now we're no longer under sin. We're under grace. And so the law of sin and death has been abolished for those who put their faith in Yeshua the Messiah. But that doesn't mean that the law itself is abolished. That doesn't mean I can go and kill people or lie or steal or break the Sabbath. That's one of the 10 Commandments. We can't go do those things. We're not under sin anymore. We're under grace. And so now we have a desire to keep the law. We just do it naturally because we've been made new. I mean, can you imagine the legislators at the state capitol and they're, writing out laws for us? They're not sitting there thinking, oh, by making these laws, we're going to make people good. Like it's going to change the people and they're going to become good because we've made a law and written it into, the ordinances of the state or whatever. No, the law doesn't make someone good. But that doesn't mean the law is bad. It's there for protection and safety. And so it's a terror to those who are breaking the law. But as soon as someone realizes that whoever's making those laws, if they believe they're benevolent and have their best interest in mind, and they know that those laws are there for their instruction so that they can live a quiet and peaceful life and be protected and safe and secure, then they naturally want to obey those laws. And I know this isn't a perfect example. Laws made by man aren't perfect. There's flaws, and sometimes there's unjust laws. And there's unjust law enforcement officials. Some police are corrupt. So it's not a perfect example, but I'm just using it to illustrate what happens with God's law. It's not that the law itself is bad. What the law does is it convicts us of our sin, because we know by the guilt on our conscience that we're under sin when we first hear the law, and we know the penalty for that. But once we're saved by putting our faith in Messiah Yeshua, we can be free from sin and free from the law of sin and death. But again, it does not mean that the law has been abolished. Yeshua himself said, "I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it." Not one iota will pass from the law until heaven and earth pass away. I don't see heaven and earth passed away yet, so not one dot or iota should have passed from the law. It's still there and it's still in effect. But it's about who we are and how we use it. So we can't just keep the law to earn salvation. That's not how it works. The law cannot make a person good or bad. It doesn't change people. What changes people is Messiah himself. He can change your heart and give you a new heart where God's law is written on your heart. And once you have God's law written on your heart, then you just naturally want to do it because you've been changed. You've been made righteous and clean by the blood of the Lamb. And all throughout Scripture, the law is looked at as a very good thing. Both Old and New Testament talk about it being a good thing, a holy thing. And so we should let it be a lamp unto our path, because it shows us the way. It's there for our instruction. It reveals the character of who Jehovah is. And Yeshua is all over the law. When you actually study it, you see how he fulfills it in so many ways. So we should love the law, not using it improperly as a means to our salvation, but using it properly as instruction and for a means of gaining wisdom and knowledge and living a good life. So that's all I have for today. Peace.